I love the way you were able to expatiate on the system and structure thing and how that really applies to sweetness cake. As in, I love that name. And you know you're a sweet person. Smiling, sweet, like that's flown to business. So, but I know that the way you are smiling is not the way you smile every day. Tell me, what are the challenges? Peculiar. So you have talked about Lagos. You've talked about, you thought it was going to be easy. But can you share, there's one we're going to land with. That's the story when you had the accident. And I think that was, you know, I knew then, but I think that was the point where I got inspired that, okay, I was going to have a sit down with Hope. And I knew you were surprised. Me? That's what, yeah, and I was like, you have a very unique story. But that one bouncing because I was like, hey, morning. You know, like that. But what are you challenging? Maybe you share two with us.
Okay.
Or do you have more than that? As in, like, peculiar, that's really, have you been able to cope? Have you been able to push? And what are the things that have made you, I'm sure there are a lot of them, like, give up, I'm not doing this thing again. Because you talked about it, like, maybe you want to now do 9 to 5 or you know do business again. But what are the challenges that you've dealt with and have you been able to deal with them?
The first challenge for me was, you know, being a business person in Zaria. Zaria is not, like, the income there is very low because basically it's lecturers, salary earners, and so trying to convince them to bring down money to pay for cakes. And me, I knew that I didn't want to sell just regular cakes. I wanted my cakes to be very, very, like, the best of the best. So trying to get them to pay was very difficult. So starting the business, at a point, it was so hard to break even. I always say it to bakers, upcoming bakers, I'm like, this business is not a business that you start and say, oh, next year I'll start making money from. It's something that...
Is any business like that?
I don't know. I don't think there's any business like that.
If you truly want to build a business.
A business, yes.
You just don't want to be chopping.
Exactly, exactly. So every year, there are some years that I will start with money, and by the end of the year, like, everything has gone back into the business.
Yes, like cake tools.
Exactly.
Everything.
So it was really challenging at a point. I was like, because when I even started, my dad was always asking me, are you sure you don't want to get a real job? And I'm like,
oh my God.
What do you mean? It's not a job. And then my younger sister just, like, she finished NYC. I had an uncle that just hooked her up, like, she was already making millions. And me, see me here, just needing fondant. And at a point, I was like, God, what kind of thing is this? But then, there's something about passion. When you're passionate about something, you can't just give up. Like, sometimes I'm dreaming and I'm just dreaming cake. So when I see things like every design in this place, I'm just seeing cake. So when you're passionate about something, you can't just drop that passion. I think that's what has kept me going. Sometimes I just look at those who have gone ahead and I see what they've built and I'm like, you can make it, you can push through this.
So their pictures inspire you.
Yes.
And then you see your own pictures.
Yes.
And until you get those pictures on ground, you can't afford to let go. Wow,
yes.
fantastic. Fantastic. That's a great one. So tell us, when you had an accident some years back, and look at you now looking beautiful, all glammed up. In fact, somebody on the set today, when I was talking, said, hey, but it's not showing on our body. I said, that's the miracle. That's the testimony. So what happened?
Okay, so I can remember that day we had a ministration in FCS then. Ejimi was invited, and so I followed him. I had a cake job, but I was like, okay, I will do it after we come back from church. And so when we came back, I just, like, changed, wore something very skimpy because I was like, okay, it's time to work. And I'd finished mixing and it was time to put on the oven. And I remember just going to the oven, trying to light the oven, and immediately I clicked. The flame just jumped from the oven onto my body. And my hair was natural, all up there, and it just...
you know, you people are natural hair, you put a lot of
hair oil, and I had just oiled the hair very well. So
Jesus.
if I just jumped on me like this, the dress I was wearing just burnt, like everything. I remember running into, I shouted Jesus, and immediately I shouted Jesus, the fire went off. And I remember running into the room and I was just shouting, give me a mirror, give me a mirror.
I don't know. It's me when you're looking. Oh my God, that's what they call trauma and shock. Because you're like, what's the aftermath of this? You're not even looking at how. Wow.
Because I'd heard stories of people who had gas accident. I've seen people who had it. So I was just like, oh, I hope my face is still there on my head. Like, so immediately I looked at the mirror. I saw that there were patches here. My skin was off on my cheeks and on my forehead. And I was like, oh, thank you, Jesus. Then I noticed that my hand was like swollen. I wanted to go and pour water on my body, but Ejimi was like, you don't know what to do with a gas explosion. So let's just first wait. I think that was a mistake we made because after then we're told that anything fire, you should just... So I sat down there for like 30 minutes and I just felt the heat all over my body and was literally my body was cooking.
So withstand pain is high.
Yes. So when we Googled and all, he called a friend of his that was a doctor, and the person said, just rush her to the hospital. When we went to the hospital, the first miracle was, I just knew the first doctor I saw. He was like a family friend. And he was like, that's hope. Yes, so he called me in, like they put me on the stretcher. And the next thing, I didn't know how bad it was until they gave me painkillers and they started to peel the skin. Jesus. Like they started peeling my face, peeling my hands, peeling my legs. I didn't know I was that burnt. By the time they were done, my chest was peeled, my legs, my hands, my face, my ears were swollen. It was really scary, but I wasn't feeling the pain because I was on painkiller. It was by the next morning when everything had worn off that I realized how much of pain I was in and how much of the fact that my skin was all gone. And then they said, okay, the fear for burn victims is the fact that I could get infected, and that's what causes death in case of burns. So we had to be treating the wound, cleaning it every day. There was this dermazine that helps to keep germs away. So every day they will literally peel off the bandages, clean it, and then put the bandages back.
See how you're saying everything I've seen. See how you're just saying without drama. As if, okay.
The pain was out of this world. I cannot even describe the pain. I just know that once the painkillers wear off, they have to give me painkillers. Like, I became friends with Penta. I knew the name of the painkiller. So another miracle that happened was after the first 2, 3, 4 days of peeling and cleaning and dressing, the doctor, who I found favor with, said that there was somebody who came earlier that was a burn victim, and his son was very rich. So they bought that there's this new, I don't know what it is, but it's like a sheet that is introduced that you just wrap the burns and then it keeps the germs away and then allows the skin to heal. So he was like, there's a leftover, that he actually wanted to use it as like an experiment on the man, but the man didn't make it, but that they have leftovers, and I think a sheet was 700K. Where were we going to get 700K from? Like, we didn't have that money. And he was like, if I'm willing to like experiment, then they want to use it as an experiment. So I can remember I was scared. I was like, God, experiments, I don't want to be skin. Yes, what if it now comes and reacts or whatever? So we prayed about it and I had peace about it. So he used it on me. After a week, they peeled off and the skin was back. And that's why my skin healed the way it did, because imagine opening and closing and opening and closing. It's going to have like this part. Yes, it has most of the scars because it was the part that was really like, it was really open and closed, exposed. So, but then I'm grateful to God. Like my face does not even, like the miracle started from the face, because my ears were, in fact, I was just like, God, devil, you have done it. You have carried my face and gone and been nice.
This our funny face. Oh, no.
But the
This
way
our
the face,
sweetness.
the way the face healed was a miracle. By 2 weeks, everything was gone. It was just little patches, and then it gradually faded away. So I remember being in the hospital and people who were coming to visit. I remember there was this particular couple who had an accident. They both had an accident. She was going to visit her mom who had cancer, and then they had the accident. Her mom later still died of cancer, but then both of them were bedridden. The guy broke his spinal cord. He's still on wheelchair today. So one of the days when we were in the hospital, they were being discharged, and they came and they were just laughing and gisting like nothing happened. And I was like, okay, your case is not even half of what these people have been through. And they were just laughing and gisting and encouraging us. And so I just drew strength from their story and the way
They're positive.
yes, they were positive
The
about
joy of,
life. Yes.
you know.
So I said, this thing is not going to discourage me. It's not going to take away my joy. And I would still go back and continue baking. I remember there was also another couple that came to visit us, and he encouraged me. He was like, I know you're going to be afraid, but the moment you're discharged, immediately you go home, the first thing you should do is to light the oven. So I remember that day when we were discharged, we went back home, and that was the first thing I did. I'm still afraid of ovens till today. I do not light the oven in my office, but that one step that I took that day, that I went and I lit that oven, changed everything for me. It was like by 2 weeks I was already ready to take up jobs, and I had started baking again.
Wow. Yeah. Wow. But how long was the healing process?
The healing process was 2 weeks in the hospital, but then after the bandages were removed, I could still see my skin, like it was transparent. I could see blood. I think it took almost 3 months of yes, me wearing long clothes to cover up and allow the skin to just get back to its natural color before.
But it's just that resolve of, I'm not giving up on this.
Yes, yes.
I'm not giving up. I think you had fought so many battles to now.
Yes.
So did you now had more fuel to the fire, as in for you to drive for success?
Yes, yes. I remember I had registered for a training. There's this training I come for every year in Lagos, and I had registered for it when the accident happened, and the training was supposed to be in a month's time. So I came for that training. My face was like Kampala. My whole body. I'm sure when the trainer saw me, she was like, but this is not the person that I was speaking to. My hands were transparent. I was just kneading my fondant like that. But then it's something that it's common in the industry. So when everybody saw me, they're like, oh, you had a burn, right? Oh. I'm like, yes. So it was, everybody encouraged me.
So is there a way it can be prevented?
Yes. As a startup, there's an oven that you have to start up if you're not like very rich.
Okay.
Yes, so I started with that oven, but when the accident happened, we had to replace and buy a better oven. Yes.
Oh, so it's because that can be prone.
Yes.
To...
Yes. So that oven, when you get it, you're supposed to be servicing it like every 3 months, but I didn't know about that. Wow. So what happens is where the gas tube is connected to the oven, oil comes from the oven back into the gas, so it starts expanding. Wow. So at a point when it expands, gas starts leaking out. So when you come to light, you wouldn't know that there's gas in the environment. And I heard that gas sticks on the human body. So that was what happened to me. When I was trying to on it, the gas was all over my body. So when I lit it, it just jumped where the gas was, and that was what happened.
So I believe at least sharing that would actually
help,
liberate somebody,
yes.
and I'm sure that's been able to help people
yes.
in the industry.
Yes.
Fantastic. At least that's one big challenge. In fact, right now I just feel like we should take a praise break and dance again. But the major thing was, again, your resilience, your grit, and then the joy of the Lord. As in, you're like, no matter how I'm feeling, no matter the pain, I'm going to keep the joy on. And I think another thing I picked was encouragement. The fact that you had people encouraging you.
Yes, yes. My husband was by the bedside every day, every single day. My family they were there. In fact, people were calling from Lagos, even Pastor D.
Did you pick our calls?
Everybody was so scared.
What is it again? Because that was what crossed my mind. What is it?
At that moment, I really couldn't pick calls
Yes,
because
yes.
I had bandages all over me.
I
so
would even
couldn't.
really prefer messages, and if all you can do is just read, because that's another thing people need to understand. Are you reaching out to people because of to help you feel better? Are you really reaching out to people because of themselves? Because when people start complaining, she did not even answer me, she did not even pick. I'm like, why do you want her to pick calls? If you're in her shoes, would you want to pick calls? You know, but fantastic, fantastic. So we should learn to encourage one another, no matter what. Even though we'll not be in people's faces, but a little word here, a little word there, as much support would really help people pull through. And you said the major supporter was your husband.
Yes.
So let's go there. Let's talk that love. Anytime, just don't mind the cameras, don't look at them, don't send them, we're just gisting their aprocos. A guy of aprocos, see them at the back there. But if you have something, if for instance there's a message you want to pass across strongly, that's your camera, you can. But a lot of times it's better just be natural. They'll do their work. They are doing aproko. So this is just us gisting. Remember those days that we just sit down and gist?
Yes.
They just happen to be here and they are coughing us. All right, call it.